The Call of the Wild, latest adaptation of the Jack London novel. I should point out that I was discussing this with Dave Norris, Last Projectionist Standing.
All right, Dave.
All right, Dave, who was showing me the original logo of the 1935 20th Century Pictures film because, and this isn't something that I knew until it was pointed out to me, it was the last film that 20th Century Pictures made before the Fox merger turned them into 20th Century Fox. And now this version is the first one, certainly the first that I've seen, with the 20th Century Pictures logo since the Fox title came out, since the Disney act. So there is a kind of weird, symmetry.
Something going on there.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, I think it's completely
symmetry or synchronicity?
Yes, synchronicity.
Would that be better?
It was the Police's least poppy album, as far as I remember.
But I like Synchronicity, and Synchronicity 2 was a very good video of them on like nuclear rubbish dumps like Mad Max.
Really?
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Don't remember that. Anyway, so the 1935, the Bill Wellman, Clark Gable, and Dog or many dogs, and most of the versions that you can think of, whether it's Rutger Hauer or whoever it is, they have been acting against dogs. So now here is Harrison Ford and a CGI dog. This is described as a live-action animation hybrid, for which, as far as I understand it, Terry Notary stood in whilst doing, when they were sort of filming live, and then the CGI dog, which was based on, obviously on photo scans of an actual dog, and then motion, a certain degree of motion capture, or a lot of motion capture. Terry Notary has got an extraordinary career and an extraordinary performer. If you've seen The Square, he's the guy in The Square who does the kind of the man-ape thing, and he is the Ruben Östlund film, which is really striking. Anyway, so live-action animation hybrid, and the Fox thing said the film employs cutting-edge visual effects and animation technology in order to render the animals in the film as fully photorealistic and emotionally authentic characters. Now, that's the phrase. Fully photorealistic and emotionally authentic characters. Now, the last time we talked about that was in the new adaptation of The Lion King, in which they had photorealist lions singing. In this case, it's photorealist, but emotionally. So there is a degree of anthropomorphism going on. And in fact, there has been some sniffiness about the disparity between the natural beauty of the landscape and the allegedly unnatural look of the dog. I have to confess, I thought it was pretty good. I am not somebody who is immediately has a problem with something, because for a start, from a kind of, if you look at the way that animals have been treated by movie makers over the years, of course, using, CGI, motion capture, performance capture, whatever it is, to put your animal on screen, of course, it's a very sensible thing to do, because animals have had a very, very hard run from the movie industry. All these movies in which animals are very, very cute on screen. Quite often, the history of the way that the movie industry has treated them has not been very good. So we first meet Buck, who is the dog. He's living it up in a mansion in which he causes chaos and he rules the roost. He is then stolen away and sent to work as a sled dog at the time that all the gold rush stuff is happening. The Yukon, at first, he's picked up by Omar Sy's postman, and he learns to be part of a sled dog pack. So he's, up until that point, his company's all been human. So when he gets Call of the Wild, he starts to discover what it's like to work with a pack. Then he winds up with a mean-spirited prospector, played by Dan Stevens, who is, very, very mean. And then he finds Harrison Ford, with whose path he has crossed in the past, but they are clearly bonded for some great adventure. Here's a clip.
Come here. This is a map of the Yukon. My son was always reading adventure stories. He's crazy about the news coming out of the Yukon. It wasn't the gold, he didn't care about that, it was the mountains. He spent all day looking at maps and pictures of the mountains, dreaming about what was on the other side. Places no one had been. Wild places. We could go. You and me. See what's out there. What do you think?
And what you're not seeing then is that as he says that, the dog is behaving in a way that is doggy, but also human-y because it's to do with the thing about the emotional response, because it's a drama with a dog in which the dog do whatever. Yeah,
I always think when we play clips of animation, it's we're asking people quite a lot. On the one hand, it's very nicely recorded. On the other hand, that just sounded like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, but the film isn't an animation. The film is a live action, and the dog isn't talking. So when you see Harrison Ford there, it's not a motion capture Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford played himself. Well, he played a character, but he is Harrison Ford. They didn't get somebody into motion capture Harrison Ford. That would have been unnecessary.
It might have been someone inside a Harrison Ford suit, like an outfit. 2 people, maybe. That would have been even better.
Yeah. Anyway, again, there has been some cynicism about it, but I thought it was rather charming. I mean, obviously, we've seen so many versions. The story has been mutated so many times. There is a certain indestructibility about Call of the Wild. There is that central thing about the Call of the Wild is a timeless story that you can reinterpret and you read fashion in many different ways. I thought this was perfectly satisfying kind of half-term fodder. The moral of the story is to do with friendship and loyalty and discovering who you are. There is spectacular scenery, and I didn't have a problem with the anthropomorphism. And the difference between this and Lion King, which again used photorealist animation, but in a way that was completely bamboozling, was because in this, although it is an anthropomorphic dog because it is a CGI dog, it doesn't start talking in English and then burst into song, which is the thing that baffled me before. I thought this was kind of rather charming. Plus, it is the sort of role which Harrison Ford now puts on like a well-beaten overcoat. He just slips into that role of the kind of... his character is somebody who's suffered personal tragedy and personal isolation, has kind of gone off into isolation and has crawled into a bottle. And through this connection with this dog... also, it helps that I'm a dog person. It helps that I am the kind of person who does believe that when you're at the bottom of life's barrel, a dog coming along and going, "Oh," would actually make you feel better.
How do they go?
They go, "Oh."
And are you sure it's the real Harrison Ford? It's not just someone playing Harrison Ford?
It may well be Andy Serkis. Terry Notary is playing the dog, and it may well be Andy Serkis playing Harrison Ford.
All right, so it could be. So it's a half-term hit.
I think, yeah. I think it's perfectly likable half-term fare. Yeah.